There are four main ways of selling on Amazon, and today we're going to discuss them all and figure out which one is the right one for you. Now, the very first one is actually either retail or online arbitrage. Now, the reason that there are two different options for this first one is because they are so similar to one another, but they just have different modes of where you're going to be purchasing your products from. One, you're going to be purchasing the products from retail stores or outlets, and then the second one, you're going to be purchasing online from different websites or different places that you can find online. And so that's why you've got the two different names for retail or online arbitrage. Now, there's some huge pros to arbitrage as a business model. And simply, if you don't know what that is, arbitrage is simply just buying products low from one place and selling it for higher on a different marketplace. And in this case, it would be Amazon. So you'd be buying products maybe from Walmart and you're selling them for more at Amazon.com. Another example, let's say you were doing online arbitrage instead of retail arbitrage. Instead of going to Walmart's physical store, you'd be going to Walmart.com and selling it then on Amazon.com. But ultimately, you get the picture. You're buying it from a store and selling it for more on Amazon. Now, the beauty of arbitrage as a business model is you can actually start with less than $500. And I've seen people start with less than $100 as well. And even people start with $0 who started just flipping products onto eBay or Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. And then they built up some money to be able to buy inventory for their Amazon business. And another pro of the arbitrage business model is that you're able to go out and find and test multiple different products so that then you can see what is selling the best on the Amazon platform. This really spreads out your risk, so you're not putting all of your eggs into one basket. You're able to spread those eggs between a bunch of different baskets and see which ones stick and which ones are the best for your business. Additionally, it does give you the ability to grow and scale and to learn the platform without risking a bunch of money up front. And so this is just a beautiful model that I started with and so many other sellers start with if they're doing things the right way, where they're trying to learn Amazon first and then get into some of the more advanced models later. And the reason so many new sellers start with this is because it does provide more flexibility. If you make some mistakes on a product or two or multiple products, it won't ruin your business. It just ultimately you learn a lesson and you end up doing different products in the future. But hopefully those few that you made mistakes on, you also had a few that did really well and you're able to double down on those. And so you can learn and grow and scale at a steady pace versus trying to put all of your money into one product hoping that it succeeds. Now, I actually recently did a video on 3 different places that you can find products that I recommend checking out after this one. We'll make sure to link it above. But ultimately, this one will help you get different ideas versus having to go to Walmart or Walmart.com. You can utilize this video to find different places that you can source that aren't the traditional sourcing spots that a lot of arbitrage sellers try to start with. And this can also scale as you move forward. You can do this from home, or you can build your own local team if you want to. You can actually do it from anywhere in the world if you choose to do the online arbitrage business model. Now, there is some high competition with arbitrage in comparison to some of the other methods, but ultimately, because there's so many different products you're testing, that high competition on some products makes them fall off of your Amazon inventory, and then you can focus on other products that have some lower competition. But this does give you the ability to do this from anywhere, and I know people that have built this into $20 million per year just doing the arbitrage business model. I myself have done hundreds of thousands of dollars per month and have sold over $6 million of products with this model, and many other sellers succeed with this model, not just in the short term, but also in the long term. Now, the second main method of selling on Amazon is actually wholesale. Now, what's great about wholesale is it allows you to buy products in bulk and get them at bigger discounts than you would with the arbitrage methods. And that's because you're simply buying products from either a distributor or you're buying them from the brand directly. And wholesale gives you the ability to grow and scale your business in a very big way, but typically you're going to be having to put out a lot more money for inventory and be buying products in bulk. So you may still have the ability to spread out your risk between a bunch of other products. However, you're going to have to buy more of each of those products. And so if you're a newer seller, this may be too risky for you. But if you're someone that's been selling on Amazon for a while or doing e-commerce for a while and you understand the basics and how to read Keepa charts and how to succeed, like all the things that I talk about on this channel, then wholesale may be a great option if you've got the funds to be able to buy all the inventory that you need and then also be able to send in all of that product as well. And so let's compare the two of arbitrage versus wholesale. And let's just say say you have $500 to get started. Well, with Arbitrage, you can go out and you can buy 5 of a $5 item. That's $25 into one product, and you can do that for another 20 different items before you hit $500. Now with wholesale, instead of being able to buy 5 of an item, you may be able to buy a minimum of 20, 40, 50, depends on the distributor. However, it may cost you $3.50 or $4. So you're saving some money on each individual unit, but you have to buy so many more that you're only able to buy a few products because you have to buy in so much bulk. And so that's where you may only have 5 or 6 products with wholesale spending $500, or maybe even one depending on the product. Whereas with Arbitrage, you can have 20, 30, 40 products depending on how much money you're able to put into it, which spreads your risk out. Now, what's great about wholesale is you are able to build some relationships with your distributors and your brands. And I've actually done that multiple times. I've got a whole training on how to do wholesale on this channel for free. And you're able to build exclusive relationships with some of these brands over time. And I've actually had one that grew to $50,000 per month in just their product line from a company that I was working with. And so it's been a very fruitful opportunity. And that was just one wholesale account. So you can go from $0 to $50,000 per month really quickly if you've got a very good product and you've got a good relationship with the brands that you're working with. And another benefit to wholesale is that it's actually sellable as a business. Now, there are some arbitrage businesses that you can sell to other people that may have an arbitrage business and they want to bring in your product line and maybe your team. However, that's rare. But with wholesale, you're able to build up a team, you're able to build up relationships with suppliers and distributors. And so those relationships and the information that you have about the customers and how you're working with those brands and all of the different data points that you've built to scale that business, that is sellable. And so that is a beautiful part of the wholesale model. And it's that reason alone that makes it much more attractive for many sellers to want to get into wholesale or even into private label or branded bundles, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And I know there are many sellers that do hundreds of millions of dollars on Amazon per year just strictly doing wholesale. They are buying other people's products and they're working with them. They've got these massive teams and they're able to scale that business to a huge level, which really makes it more exciting as you're progressing in your Amazon business knowledge, that this is something that you can go from Arbitrage. You've got hundreds of products in Arbitrage over time, and maybe you learn about a cool brand and you reach out to them and you build that relationship, and that relationship turns into another relationship that then starts another brand wholesale account that you've got, and this can really build and snowball over time into something that's sellable and that provides a good income stream for you and all the people working for you. And while wholesale is actually my favorite method of selling on Amazon for these reasons, it's also the one that I teach after doing the Replens arbitrage methods that I was talking about at the beginning of this video, because the arbitrage methods are much safer for newer sellers to learn the platform, and then as they grow and scale, getting into wholesale, in my opinion, is the most logical next step. However, there is this third method that many sellers decide to go into instead. And that third method is actually branded bundles. Now, what's great about branded bundles is you are actually building up almost like your own private label brand. And I'm going to get into private label in a minute and kind of comparing and contrasting between the other methods. But branded bundles has kind of commonly been referred to as a poor man's private label, because you're able to start your own brand and you're able to do it typically with less money up front than doing a whole private label product, ordering potentially internationally or even locally in the United States. If you're selling here, those orders can be much higher if you're making and manufacturing your own products, sometimes $5,000 to $10,000 just for a good run of private label products. And that's what a lot of people teach. But what's great about the branded bundles method is you can take a look at your business. Let's say you've got an arbitrage business. You can see what's selling well, and you can also see some gaps where maybe if you take these really good selling products and you take your own brand and add a unique item, something that is complementary to it, and you combine these two things, a very well selling brand with your own unique item that adds value to this very good selling thing, then that's where you can create your own listing and you're able to sell on that, and you'd be the only seller on the listing. You don't have to worry about competition. You do have to worry about making sure that you're following all of Amazon's guidelines for how to create listings, etc. But ultimately, this method, the branded bundle method, is a good way to start getting into private label and creating your own listings and figuring out how that method works without risking $5,000 to $10,000 on one product for that inventory. Now, if we're looking at these three methods that we've covered so far, and we're trying to decide what's the riskiest and what's the most difficult ones to start, typically it's going to be, hey, if we're looking at arbitrage, that that is the least risky scenario because you can see the selling history of every product that you're going to send in, and you can also start with less money. Now, if you get into wholesale, you can see the selling history of every product as well, utilizing keepa.com and all the stuff that I talk about on this channel, but you're typically going to have to be putting out a lot more money and putting all of your eggs into that one basket with those wholesale products. And then if you look at branded bundles, that's going to be the riskiest out of these three because you are making your own listing. You can't see the selling history of that exact listing on Amazon. You can see the selling history of the products you're putting with your unique item, but you can't see how that's actually going to sell and play out for you for sure. And so that's where it can become risky. Plus, a lot of times you will have to buy, 10 to 15 units to test a new product out. And so we can get a little bit more risky there. So if you're looking at the risk versus reward scale of where you should start, arbitrage is going to be winning out of those three methods. However, if you're looking for the sellability of your brand and you're also trying to build something that can scale to much higher heights, then looking at wholesale and branded bundles are going to give you more opportunity for that in the long term. And that brings us to our fourth option, our fourth most popular method for selling on Amazon, which is private label. Now, this is actually going to be the riskiest method out of all four of them because with the other three, as I just compared, we're looking at risk versus reward. Now, private label has a high reward if it succeeds. However, the risk is much higher. You're going to be spending a lot more money on inventory, and you're also not going to be able to see the selling history of those listings. So you may be spending $1,000 to $10,000 on one type of a product or a couple different types of products from one manufacturer. You're going to have to learn how to build all these listings and do images and learn how to do ads and potentially get influencers and do all of these other things. And with that, you're taking on all of that risk. And I've seen more horror stories from people that tried to start selling on Amazon using private label. And so that's where I get a little bit more cautious about teaching private label to new sellers. However, it is something that you can grow and scale into over time. Maybe you start with arbitrage and you start to get into wholesale, and those wholesale accounts, maybe you build some branded bundles with it. And from those branded bundles, then maybe you create a private label listing of your own product because you've learned along the way. Now, there's actually this great pyramid that I've seen of how the selling on Amazon should typically work. And with this pyramid, you can see at the bottom, at the base of this, we've got arbitrage, and specifically we would have replens arbitrage, where you're replenishing your arbitrage products over and over again. That's what I teach on this channel, and I recommend checking out those videos after. After that, you go up to something that's a little bit more risky, but you're able to spread it out by being able to see the selling history of the products using wholesale. And then if you're moving further up that ladder, you can see branded bundles, and then finally at the top of that is private label, where you're making your own listings, you're manufacturing your own products, you've got your own brand, and that can really sell to an investor in the future. Now, it's a great model to get to, but you should be looking, if you're a new seller, at starting with arbitrage. And the reason for that, in addition to the risk versus reward, is that with private label, you've got a huge reward and huge payoff there. But a lot of the best private label sellers that I've seen started with arbitrage. They learned about the Amazon platform. They learned what listings sell well. They learned how the images should look on a listing and what keywords work and the titles and all of the basics of building a listing and what that looks like for good selling products on Amazon. They learned that through arbitrage, and then they moved up the ladder into learning private label over time. Now, I actually have a free 30-day training at my website at askjimmysmith.com/free training. It is 30 days of emails that you'll get one per day of a new training lesson each day to get started on Amazon, specifically using the Amazon arbitrage replens method. Also, I've got plenty of videos on this channel for you to check out, hundreds of them actually, so be sure to check that out as well. Now, if you have any questions or any comments, post them below. I'd be sure to read them and respond to as many as I can. Hope this video helps you and blesses you, and that you have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.